This is week 4, day 6 of 7 days of XYZ, a YouTube channel where I explore a new topic every week related to companies and technology. This week is about the Swedish Startup System, and today let's talk about consumers, because without consumers there are no businesses. Let's dig a bit deeper into why Sweden is a good place to launch a startup, looking at some macro trends around consumers. Sweden is sometimes mentioned as a top testing market for new products. According to Business Sweden, Sweden is a good place because of these reasons. So it has a top performing growing economy, it has steady population growth and wealthy inhabitants, sophisticated consumers with high purchasing power, strong retail sales growth, appetite and demand for new retail concept, early adopters and a well-established test market, etc, etc. So in this video, let's talk about this. A case that kind of personally interested me is Spotify. In the podcast Masters of Scale, Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, talks about how he approached record companies and asked for their permission to launch the Spotify business model where, consumers are streaming music for a fixed cost a month. So he went to the record companies and kind of pitched this idea, and they didn't want to give him the rights, globally. So he said, let me try this in a test market. Let me try it in Sweden. This is great because Sweden is an isolated market in some sense. If it doesn't work, it's only Sweden where the music companies has to kind of withdraw this particular experiment. And also, if you look at the internet speeds, Sweden has been constantly kind of ranking high and building a lot of infrastructure for mobile internet. But this Spotify case was 10 years ago, so what about today? I think that adoption of technology is useful to think about in terms of most X have Y, where X is a group of people and Y is the technology. So let's use this kind of simple formula for some technological trends. Back in 96 to 2000 was the point where most people in Sweden had access to a computer. As shown in this graph, the number of computers per 100 people. If a household is around 3 people, then most households would have a computer around 96. And if we look at more recent stats, the average households now has around 2 computers and 1 tablet. And another example of fast adoption rates of technology is the number of IoT devices per 100 people. So if you look at this graph, Sweden is fairly high in terms of how many people have IoT devices. But Korea and Denmark is way higher, actually. While Sweden is still a country where most people have kind of access and also use the internet, there are still 2 groups of citizens that are kind of made this adoption of internet in recent years. And these are young kids and people born in the 40s. So the general trend among kids is that, kids under 10 are typically using iPads and other tablets, and around the age of 10, phone is becoming more common than a tablet to access the internet. Related to kids, I think this graph is very, very interesting. So this is the adoption rate of internet among kids from age 0 to 6. And it's spread out over the years 2014 and 2018. So what has happened in this graph is that the 2-year-olds that are using the internet has gone from 57% to 79% from 2014 to 2018. And then if you look at the age between 0 and 1, the adoption rate of internet is 26% and 37%. So the current situation is most kids between 2 and 6 are using the internet. And now kind of the next trend would be, most kids between 0 and 1 are using the internet, as shown in this increase of number of kids that are using the internet between 0 and 1. And a similar adoption rate can be seen considering internet on mobile phones among people born in their 40s. And back in 2007, most people born in the 40s would not use internet on their phone. But last year, 74% of the people in the 40s have internet on their phone. And if you look at paying for music, it has grown from single digits in 2014 to more than a quarter in 2018. So the trend here is that more and more people born in their 40s are, using internet on their phone, and also, starting to pay for services. And, in a couple of years, most people that are born in the 40s are gonna pay for having music on their phone. And, the similar trend will probably be seen with other kind of subscription services like Netflix and others. So I think this is a huge part of the success of Swedish tech companies, and it is fueled by, both high incomes and huge investment in IT infrastructure. I'm 31, and I still remember having like a bad reception on my cell phone and connecting to the internet with a slow modem connection. But now, like 4G mobile connection is pretty much commonplace in most places of Sweden. And a side point that kind of got me curious, like doing this research, is that, seeing these adoption rates of internet among kids, I started to think, what will this lead to for society? The people that are 18 today kind of grew up with internet and technology, sure, but I think that most of them still remember not being connected. And this new generation is kind of adopting tech before they have their first conscious memory. So we're starting to see kids that are like between 0 and 3 years old, which is like before where they would have their first memory, starting to use technology. And I think that's like a huge shift for society, and I have no idea what it will lead to. If you have some thoughts on this, please leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you like this video, please hit subscribe.